Hello, and welcome back to another video. It's that time of the month, guys. It is time to grab your drink, grab your snack, get cozy, get comfy. It's time for our monthly reading wrap up. We're going to talk about all the books that I read in July. So let's just get straight to it because there is lots of books that I want to talk about. I ended up reading 10 books for the month. I will admit, not a very successful month. We do not have any 5 stars, spoiler alert, and we have a DNF. If you haven't seen my last video, I did do a reading vlog of books that I have been avoiding. If you want a more in-depth review on those books, there was 4 in total in that vlog, please go and watch that one because I am going to be very brief on purpose on those books because I have done that video where you get to see me reading them at the time and my honest thoughts at the time. As per usual for my monthly reading wrap-ups, I love to talk about my rating and I like to also compare it to the Goodreads community rating as a whole. I just like to see where I'm sitting at and I just find it interesting to see whether or not if my review is similar to the reading community as a whole or if my taste is a bit different. I just personally find that interesting, so I do like to pop that in here when I am giving you my rating and review. Alright guys, the first book of the month was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I will admit, very disappointing. It just brought me back to her OG books like Beach Read, Book Lovers and that sort of stuff, and those books, You and Me on Vacation, etc. I was not the biggest fan. I had read all them and then Happy Place come out and I was umming and ahhing about whether or not I would read it, and I did enjoy Happy Place. So then when Funny Story came out, I was like, right, I'll give her another go. I loved Funny Story. So this is the book after Funny Story and I just felt like I've gone backwards. I just didn't love it. It was about 2 writers trying to get this biography, this famous heiress. She was born into fame and royalty just purely because of her last name. She wants to do a biography about herself now that she has kind of run away from fame and has been hiding and no one knows where she is. You find out all these things about her life. I didn't love the dual timeline in here. I honestly feel like this book also should have been dual POV so that we could see what the male character was thinking more, but I'm sorry, I didn't love it and it just did not live up to the Funny Story hype for me. Unfortunately, we started the month off pretty bad. I ended up rating this book a 2.5 stars and the Goodreads community rating as a whole was 4.01. So, I mean, a lot of you guys did like it, but yeah, it just took me back to those first initial books and I don't love them. I do not love them. So anyway, that's the first book. Then we moved on to Summer in the City by Alex Astor. Now this is my first book by Alex Astor. You can probably see here I've got Lightlark and Nightbane sitting there. This is my TBR shelf, so they are to be read. I also had this because this is her first romance that she has come out with. It is quite short. It was nice. It was such a nice, quick, easy read. I have been meaning to get to the Lightlark series, but I have just got so many other fantasy series that I need to finish before I start that one, and I was like, I really want to dabble in her writing and see what I think in a romance perspective, and I feel like that's kind of going to set the tone as to whether or not I will like her writing in a fantasy world as well, even though I know that's completely different. This book was about Elle and Parker, and Parker is this famous billionaire and Elle is a writer, but she writes in secret. It's like a screenwriter. She writes everything in secret. She goes by this anonymous name. They kind of do this fake relationship. They first meet in the past and nearly have this one night stand, but then Elle puts her guard up against him because of something that he says, and then she goes on to say, I hate him, and because he's obviously this famous person, she knows who he is and she sees him all the time in the news and the tabloids. They meet again in the future. She is house sitting her sister's house in New York City and she's also trying to write this screenplay. Funnily enough, her neighbor ends up being Parker. Said they get into this fake dating arrangement, but she's just desperate for inspiration and she's kind of using Parker in a way to write screenplay based on experience that he provides her with, because she's very much like this hermit. She's just inside all the time, doesn't really go and do things, and yeah, he just brings her out of her shell and it's just so nice. But that's pretty much the gist of it. I'm sure you can kind of guess what happens. Like I said, it was a nice, quick, easy read. It was a short book. I think it was only 200 and something pages in the end. 292, so just under 300 pages. I read this book in a day. It was just so seamless and so nice nice to read. Obviously, I didn't put it down. I read it in a day. I gave this book a 3.75 and the Goodreads community rating is a 3.73. So definitely on par there with that one. Then we moved on to Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. Now, this is the second book in the Wicked Games series following Phantasma. Phantasma was my first dabble in dark romance, and I honestly felt like I finished that book with just pure mixed emotions. I didn't know what I felt. I remember sitting on it for like a day or two because I was like, I just don't even know what to rate this book. Little did I know, I actually had the second book sitting on my TBR shelf here before I even picked up Phantasma, like before I even had Phantasma in my hands. This was sitting there and I was like, oh, do I even bother, or do I just DNF? Or I just wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to pick this up. Like, I had full intentions to like let this sit on my bookshelf for 6 months and then maybe I might pick it up again. I think I read Phantasma in like May, so it's only taken me 2 months to pick the second one up and read it. But this one was Genevieve's story and there was so many twists and turns in this one. The first one is very much ghosts, demons, devil, apparitions, and I did not vibe that. This one was kind of like that, but just very, very different. I just got completely different vibes from it. This book is about Genevieve and Rowan, and I was just rooting for Genevieve and Rowan. And towards the end, I was like, what? Like I said, there's just so many twists and turns. I just really, really love this book so much more than the first one, and it honestly changed my opinion on dark romance because after I read Phantasma, I was just like, I really don't know if dark romance is for me. Now that I've read this, I am thinking maybe I will dabble my feet into another series or another dark romance book. So if you have any recommendations, dark romance, that give me the vibes of this one, not Phantasma, then please comment below. I ended up giving this book a 4.5 and the Goodreads community rating gave this a 4.33. So definitely on par again there, similar vibe. On to the fourth book of the month, we read Legendary by Stephanie Garber. This is the second book in a Caraval series. This one was not my favorite. I definitely like the first one better than this. Fast forward to now, we're in the middle of August and I've actually read the third book, Finale, and Finale is my favorite by far, hands down. So there's a little insight into August's monthly reading wrapper. This one obviously focused a bit more on Donatella and her journey to find her mum and save her mum, and also her journey with Dante and also trying to find out who Legend is. This doesn't feel like fantasy, although I guess it probably is, but there's just these magical elements in this book, in this series, that just give me such good vibe. I've never really read a book that's got magical components and aspects about it other than obviously this series. Yeah, I do. I just really like this series and I'm honestly surprised. I thought that I wouldn't because everyone keeps telling me that I have the full, you can probably see down here, I've got the full trilogy of Once Upon a Broken Heart sitting there ready to go, and I got that first and everyone's like, no, you need to read the Caraval series before you read them ones, because there is characters from this book, apparently their journey continues in Once Upon a Broken Heart. So I was like, radio, I'll give this a go. And honestly, I was just putting it off. I was like, oh, this just doesn't sound too great. Like, I wasn't loving it. And I know that these have been out for a while, so a lot of people have obviously read them. Pleasantly surprised with how much I have actually liked this series. So Legendary, I ended up giving a 3.5 and the Goodreads community rating was a 4.11. The fifth book of the month that I read was one that is in my reading vlog. Like I said, I'm just going to touch on it for my full review and reading experience. Go and watch that vlog. Blue Sisters by Coco Mellows. I read the synopsis of this and I was like, oh my god, this sounds really good. So it's about 4 sisters and their kind of downfall and how their lives all spiral. They've got these amazing jobs and having all this success, and then there's just this underlying issue for each of the sisters. We know before we start the book because it's on the back, but one of the sisters, Nikki, she actually passes away. I was always so interested from reading the synopsis, what the hell has happened to all these sisters to cause every single one of them to have this big downward spiral. Like, I was just so intrigued as to what has happened to get them to where they are. But let me tell you, I was disappointed with this. And I'm not disappointed in the book itself, I guess, but I didn't do my research going into it, and this is actually literary fiction. I remember when I started, I was like, oh my god, this feels like it's a biography, like I'm listening to someone's journal entries or something. And also, another thing that I did not like about this was the length of the chapters. This whole book here, 12 chapters. It's 12 chapters. I remember going into the second or third chapter and I was like, oh, that took me a little while to read. And then the third one come along and it was like 37 pages, 34 or 37. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not a fan of long chapters like that. I do like reasonably short chapters, but it just felt like this dragged on. Like this took me so long to read, even though it's only like 340 pages or something like that. It's just, yeah, did not love. I ended up giving this a 2.5. Goodreads rates it a 3.94. So like I said, for my better review and reading experience, go and watch my vlog. We've had to do a camera swap. My camera went flat, so I have swapped to my phone. We got 5 books done. So anyway, let's just keep it going because I also have to go and pick up my kids soon from daycare. The next book that I read was Holding the Reins by Paisley Hope. I don't actually know what this series is called. Probably should have done my research with that, but this book is about Cece and Nash. This is a cowboy romance. They grew up as childhood friends. Nash is best friends with Cece's brothers. She has just gone through a bad breakup and she's moved back home and is finding herself again and getting her life back together. She actually ends up working for Nash's business and helping him and saving with him. It's like a leisure center type thing, but Nash is a retired famous hockey star, so he played for the Dallas Stars and now he has moved back to Laurel Creek. This is where they both grew up. They end up in like this forced proximity situation. They end up having a one-night stand because there's all this sexual tension and chemistry and they think, oh, maybe we'll just, get it out of our system once. Does that ever happen? Really? They just crave each other more and more, and then it becomes this secret and they've got this relationship in hiding because they're so scared of what Cece's mum and also brothers are going to think about the whole thing. It's just like a bit of a tangled web in the end, but surprisingly I did really like this book. It's not really a surprise, is it? I feel like I'm gonna like every cowboy romance I read. I ended up giving this a 4. The Goodreads community rating gives it a 3.91. Moving on to another book that I had in my reading vlog of books that I've been avoiding is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I feel like I'm very late to the game. I feel like everyone has this opinion on Kingfisher. This is obviously a story about Ceres, and let me tell you, it took me a little while to get into it, and I've said this in my review in my vlog, but I found names and places, even though there's a glossary, I found them so hard to pronounce. I had to keep putting on the audiobook so they knew that I was pronouncing them properly in my head when I was reading it. But after I kind of got past all of that, there was just a few little twists and turns in there, and it really just caught my attention and kept my mind captive. Like, I was really surprised. Like, I don't know why, I just thought I wasn't going to like it because it was really, really hyped. But let me just tell you, I did not expect the ending. I'm just shocked. I'm so shocked. But also, I cannot wait for the next, but for a more in-depth reading experience and review, like I said, go and watch my vlog. I gave this book a flat 4 stars and the Goodreads community rating is a 4.35. We are getting there. We've got 3 books to go. Again, another one from my reading vlog, Cross the Line by Simone Sultani. This book, surprisingly, I liked. I don't know why, I just kind of, and I say this in my vlog, but I bought this book because of the cover. I just thought this cover was just so cool. The thing that put me off, which I don't know why, when I bought it, like, it's obviously obvious that this is about Formula 1 racing, but I find Formula 1 racing so boring. I thought that I will probably never get into. That was why I was kind of avoiding this book. But anyway, this book is about Dev and Willow. They are childhood friends. Willow has just finished all her studies and she's fully qualified in her marketing degree and looking for jobs, but she's getting knockback after knockback after knockback. And Dev is in the search of a social media manager. He had a really bad breakup with his previous PR person. Just all these scandals kind of come out and his name was just like thrown in the trash. So he just needed someone to come in and help him and dig him up out of that so that he can just focus on what he loves and what he knows, and that's the Formula 1 driving. That's kind of where Willow steps in. Dev hires her for that position and she goes away with him on all his tours. It's just a story about him kind of connecting again with what he loves and starting from basic, but then it's also Willow getting her experience and finding her footing in what she wants to do with a career. Also, a love story. There is one thing in here that I didn't like, and I'm not going to tell you what that is here. I'll watch my books that I've been avoiding reading vlog. I ended up giving this book a 3.75 and Goodreads community rating 3.59. Okay, if you didn't hear me correctly at the start, I told you that for July there was a book that was a DNF, and this was in my reading vlog. This was the last book for my reading vlog, so it didn't end on a very good note, but that book is Wicked by Gregory Maguire. The reason for my purchasing of this book was obviously Wicked, the movie, was coming out on Netflix. It was in the theaters and everyone was raving about the theater and everyone was raving about the movie. And I was like, do you know what? I know that there's a book on this and I really want to read the book before I watch the movie, and it's coming out on Netflix, so I want to read it before it comes out on Netflix. Pick this up in the month that it did come out on Netflix. I hated it. I DNF'd it at about 60%. First couple of chapters and everything were okay. Audiobook honestly saved it. Like, I don't think I could have sat there and read for as long as I did if I hadn't been listening to some of the book as well. Could not keep up. I just kept getting so confused. I did not know what was going on. Honestly surprised me, because I'm like, this book is related to The Wizard of Oz and that world. And I was reading the book and I'm like, well, this is definitely not like PG or G or whatever The Wizard of Oz is rated. This is like M. 18 plus, and I was just so confused and thrown off. I was talking to another friend about this when I was reading it, to be like, girl, like, I cannot get through this book. I don't know, I'm struggling. And she was like, yeah, I had to DNF it as well. Like, I could not read the book. And so many people have said like the musical and also the movie are just so different to the book. So I was like, I just don't like, this is throwing me off even wanting to watch the movie now on Netflix. I was like, this has just got a bad taste in my mouth and I'm just not liking it. And she's like, no, still watch the movie because it's very, very different. So I'm like, oh, okay. That's a bit of background on that one, but yeah, very, very disappointed. DNF, no rating at all, but I will tell you what Goodreads rated it. 3.51. I was way off with that one. We are up to my last book of the month, and this book was a reread of one of the books of my favorite series. I ended up in my TBR jar putting in a bunch of prompts that say reread, because there is a series or two that I would like to go and reread. One is right here behind me, the Windy City series by Liz Tomford, and the other series is Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. This is one of the series that just got me so into reading again, and my love for cowboy romance just grew from this series. And when I read this book for the first time, I rated it a 5, but then I kept going and I read Heartless and I'm like, no, that's a 5. And then I kept going and I got to Reckless and I'm like, wait, no, that's a 5, because I rated them and I was comparing. I was like, oh no, I'll just drop Heartless down to like a 4.5. But rereading this and the feelings and the giddiness and everything that this gave me when I started reading it again for the first time, I was just like, this is 5-star feelings. Like, what am I doing? Why did I degrade this book? Because when I first read it, I was obsessed, and I've just read it again and I am even more obsessed. So I'm going to keep it there at a 5. Honestly, when I reread Heartless and Reckless, they may possibly go up to a 6-star. Let's just say that. But this is, yeah, definitely a 5, and I loved it. I was so nervous to do a reread because I'm like, I've already read this, I know. But then, yeah, rereading it, I was like, oh my God, it just brings back all the feels and just reminds me why I love reading so much, and especially why I love cowboy romance so much, because this is where it all began. But yeah, it was such a nice feeling, and I just felt like when I was reading this book that I was home. Like, I was home back in Chestnut Springs, and I was home, I was safe, and I was happy. Definitely a 5-star in my opinion. And the Goodreads community rating for this one was a 4.03. I lied to you. I said that there was no 5 stars for the month, and I lied. This is definitely 5 stars. So there was one. I was gatekeeping the truth, sorry. It is a couple of days later, and I was looking over the books that I have read, and I was packing away books, and I realized that I actually forgot one book in my monthly wrapper because I had lent it out to my mum. So she had it, and it wasn't until I've got it back that I've realized that I had another book. So I must have read 11 books for the month of July. That book that I read was towards the start of the month too, actually, and it was Sable Peak by Debney Perry, which is the final book in the Eden series. And can I tell you, this is going up there with one of my favorite. I have the biggest crush on Mateo. So this is obviously about Mateo. He is kind of like the lost soul of the family. Griffin has the farm and Knox has the cafe and he's cooking, and Eloise has the Eloise Inn. She does the motel. Harley is the doctor and Lila has the coffee shop. Everyone has their own thing except Mateo. He's just like this big flyer person that fills in for everyone and helps
helps everyone out when they need someone. He could go and do a morning on the ranch with Griffin, and then he'll come in and help Lila at the coffee shop. At everyone's disposal, wherever you need me, I will go. Billy decides to become a pilot, and he goes away for a stint of time, and he does his flying thing, and he falls in love with this girl, but she's very much so like, no, like this is just purely a physical relationship. Anyway, little does he know, he gets a call when he's home from this girl's best friend saying, hey, you need to come back here. She's just had a baby, you're the father, and she's passed away in childbirth. Becomes this single dad, and he's adjusting with life while also trying to find out exactly what it is that he likes and what he wants to do, because he loves flying, but there's just not demand or need. So yeah, anyway, that's a bit of background on Mateo. And then the female main character in this one is Vera, and she is a very closeted person. She's gone through a lot of trauma. I don't want to say too much because it's going to give away a lot for the book that we get to see her in. I don't want to say too much because I feel like it's going to give away a lot. But anyway, she's trying to find her dad. She disappears out into the woods and stuff all the time, and she's constantly going hiking and she's trying to find him. But little does she know, her dad doesn't want to be found. He knows where Vera is, but he does not want to be found. She kind of gets taken in by the Edens. She's living on the ranch. She has obviously gone through a lot of trauma, and she's been taken away from society. Let's just say that. That's all I'm going to give you. So this is her just kind of coming back in and finding her footing and learning how to socialize. She has this massive crush on Mateo. It almost feels like kind of self-development-y. Like this is the one where I feel like out of all the books in the series, this is the book that shows the most growth with both characters. And I am so sad now that the Eden series is over for me. But yeah, I ended up giving this book a 4.25, and the Goodreads community rating was a 4.20. So very on par with that one. I rambled enough, but I just needed to film that and put this in there because I realized I have missed a book. So that would bump the total up for the month as well.
I had a very mixed reading month, but can I tell you that books that I have been avoiding vlog definitely got some of the ones that were giving me icky feelings that were just been sitting on my TBR shelf out of the way, and they're done. Is obviously the other 4 that they were compared to still up here because it was a bit of a choice. If you haven't watched the video, go watch it. How many times am I going to say that? And I am really getting through my TBR now, guys. I have, you can't see the bottom shelf down here, but there's the 3 shelves on here, and then I've only got 3 other books there, and then the Throne of Glass series that need to come on my shelf, and then I've got no backlist. There's nothing else to the side, it's just what's on the shelf. So we are definitely getting through the TBR. Will give you an insight. I'm only 12 books away from reaching my reading goal for the year. So my reading goal is 80 books. Yeah, I'm getting very close, and like we've just started August. That is all for today. They are a very chitty chatty video, so I will wrap it up here, but thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. The next video is not going to be a book video. It's going to be more lifestyle content, but I will chat to you about books very soon.